This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC 302. I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week, most confident picks on the card, my favorite underdogs. We'll talk Degen Props of the night. We'll talk parlays, and then we'll finish it out with the Degen Parlay section. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe it up. Turn the post notifications on, and make sure you share the video as well. And last week, or rather last card, UFC Vegas 92, the last week there was UFC, hit the lock, Abus Magomedov, and I also clean sweep the board with this entire show, going 6-0 through the most confident picks, lock of the week, and the favorite underdog. So I'm feeling pretty damn tremendous about how things are moving in the right direction as far as the picks are going. My confidence for UFC 302 is definitely there, but you will be warned now, there's some chalky lines. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it, the lock of the week.
Fighting out of Houston, Texas, Alex the Great White Morono.
Alex Morono is my lock for UFC 302. I believe a lot of you saw it coming because I am a believer in Alex Morono's striking specifically, but his skill set overall, and he's been a lock before. He's in a rematch with Niko Price, who he was whooping until he got caught with a brutal shot in the second round and flatlined at the end. That was all the way back in 2017, so a very long time ago. Morono has been doing pretty good as of recent, and only losses are against higher tier opposition, whereas Niko Price has 2 straight knockout losses. He got absolutely destroyed by Robbie Lawler last fight. And in the striking realm, I think Alex Morono is going to find a ton of clean shots on Price's head. Also, the fact that he's coming in with a little bit of vengeance from the last time it not going his way and him getting knocked out in his home state of Texas. I think that Alex Morono is coming out to kill. Now, he's the favorite, minus 250 line for Alex Morono. Of course, it's a little bit towards the wider side because one guy is surging and doing pretty well against high-tier opposition. I mean, Morono's recent loss came against Joaquin Buckley, who's in that like top 10, top 11 now. Whereas Niko Price is kind of fallen off and seems to be teetering towards the washed side of his MMA career. Morono, yes, it's wide at minus 250, but there is, I think, playability of Morono in a parlay. We'll talk to parlays at the end, and you'll definitely see Morono as a signature. And then also looking at the knockout prop sitting up at plus 215, I don't think it's crazy this fight getting a knockout win for Morono as much as he was hitting Price before. And then the fact that Price has been consistently absorbing a lot of damage in fights gives me confidence. Another factor is under 2.5 is live at minus 135. As much as I hate to say this because I don't want to put it out to the universe, if Niko Price did land and knock out Alex Morono with a flukish shot, it'd probably be under 2.5. And in all honesty, I think the only way Niko Price wins is a comeback KO. I don't see that happening. I think Morono is going to be very calculated in this fight, and I think the parlay on the money line is beautiful, and expect maybe a looping counter shot when Price comes inside. Listen, I picked Robbie Lawler as an underdog against Niko Price. I have felt that Niko Price's game is, I don't want to say falling apart. It was never that tight to begin with, right? But he seems to be more hittable than ever, to be slower than ever before, and more open to shots. And Morono, I think, is in his prime right now. So I am going with Alex Morono as the lock to win by knockout against Niko Price. Let's jump to the most confident picks. We'll bring them all up on the screen. We got Islam Makhachev, okay? You already knew. Grant Dawson, Bassil Hafez, and we have the up-and-coming, exciting Brazilian flyweight. We got André Lima on the slate. So we got some quality calls. I will go in, the order that I have it written out here on screen for you guys. So Makhachev at the top of it, yes. He is a minus 600 favorite, of course. Yes, the line sucks. He's taking on Dustin Poirier, and I know there are some believers in Dustin Poirier that follow the channel. I know I'm going to see some comments repping Team Poirier, and I love you guys' enthusiasm and fanfare, but I just don't believe it. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't care about the Paulo Costa curse. I don't care about June being a month where Poirier's never lost a fight. What I do care about is the over 35 record of fighters in the lightweight division. I believe, 0-15 in title fights? The odds are super slim. And I think that over 35 of all these MMA curses is the most truthful one because it's based on a biological fact. Aging does slow fighters down. The reflexes diminish a bit. Now, does that mean Dustin Poirier isn't a dangerous fighter with huge power? Absolutely not. His boxing's nasty. And if Makhachev chose to fight him like a boxer, he'd be in trouble, but he won't. Islam Makhachev is a very cerebral fighter. He has Khabib Nurmagomedov in the corner. I think they are going to come in with a very calculated game plan. Takedowns will be effective here. Control from top, wearing on Dustin Poirier and eventually strangling him. I'm going submission win for Makhachev. I do have inside distance there at minus 250 if somehow Makhachev decided to be a maestro on the feet and knock Poirier out. Crazier shit has happened. He did head kick Volk. Submission, though, the official call for that is minus 125. I am predicting Makhachev by sub officially. I don't see the swan song, upset, Rocky story from Dustin Poirier happening, guys. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. Let's keep running. Next fighter. We got Grant Dawson. Another line that is just shit now. It was a lot better last week. Now it's gotten so wide. He's in that minus 500 range. I mean, it's ugly. And it's not really money lineable at all. It becomes another forced parlay situation. But I am confident that Dawson is levels above Joe Solecki. I also think he can win by submission against Joe Solecki. Dawson by sub is plus 300. I know Solecki has good jiu-jitsu too. But I could see Dawson locking something up after wearing on Solecki for the first maybe 8 minutes of the fight. Either way, even Grant Dawson just going out and winning a decision is why the parlay side of it, straight down the center with Dawson on your lineup, is probably a better idea. Expect control from Dawson. He's the better wrestler of the two. I think Dawson is going to be able to kind of just work Joe Solecki. He's just a almost better version of Joe Solecki. His wrestling's better, his jiu-jitsu's better, and I think his striking's better. If it turned into a kickboxing match, I favor Grant Dawson. I think Joe Solecki is not a very good striker. I don't think he's a good striker at all, to be fair. I'm going with Grant Dawson to win, and I am going to predict the submission finish. I guess it would be a little surprising. It's at plus 300, and Solecki's a jiu-jitsu ace in his own right, but Dawson is just levels above. Like, prior to the Bobby Green fight, Grant Dawson was being sold as the next big thing. There's a lot of word, even from Moicano, saying that he's the best wrestler at ATT, so I'm ready to see what Dawson can do. I'm going Grant Dawson, high confidence. He's going to pull through. The next one, Bassil Hafez over Mickey Gall. If Hafez doesn't win this fight, I mean, last time out, he has a split decision against now a top-ranked UFC welterweight in Jack Della Maddalena. And on short notice, he gave Jack Della the toughest fight of his life. Minus 350, the money line is not horrible here for, again, another parlay piece, unfortunately. But inside distance, plus 105. If you think there's maybe a possibility he locks up a sub. And then the KO is plus 325. I think he's probably ground and pounding Mickey Gall. He's in a body, Mickey Gall, guys. He's better at jiu-jitsu than him. And he's better at striking. And he's way more of a physical specimen in presence. Now, if Bassil Hafez looks like he lost 20 pounds of muscle and he gets on the scale looking like he's running on the low testosterone, then you know what? Maybe he was on the steroids for the fight against Jack Della. Because there's been a lot of suspicions with Bassil Hafez taking PEDs because of his menacing frame. Not saying he's definitely on PEDs. There's no failed drug test that I can look to and tell you that it's true. But if he looks significantly skinnier at weigh-ins, then I'm going to be worried. But if it's the Bassil Hafez who went out and gave Jack Della Maddalena his trickiest fight in the UFC, then 1,000% I think he destroys Mickey Gall with relative ease. So Hafez, high confident here. Next one, André Lima over Mitch Raposo. As much as I am a Mitch Raposo supporter, this is a breakdown. This is a prediction. This is an analysis. This is not fanfare. I think that Lima's a great talent. I'm also a Lima fan. I've believed on him since the damn Contender Series fights. Zenda Jim win, who was like 14-1 at the time. If you look at comparison of who they've been fighting, Lima has taken on way better opposition, whereas Raposo's getting like tune-up wins outside of the UFC, building his confidence after a loss on the Contender Series to Jake Hadley. So I am picking Lima. Lima is a primary base Muay Thai striker, but he does have very good get-ups, and his defensive jiu-jitsu is quite solid. He's minus 250, the favorite. Again, little wider, but less wide than some of these other high-confidence calls. Decision win is plus 165. Raposo's pretty fucking tough, and he's gone longer in fights before. I think he's a scrappy dude. I think he's going to be outgunned, outworked, and outmatched, but I do feel like the toughness he has will survive him the full 3 rounds with a pretty seasoned, up-and-coming André Lima, who looks to be somebody that has a special striking style, and I'm just not confident in Raposo's ability, not to land takedowns. I can see him land takedowns, to hold Lima down and do significant damage. So we're going with Lima. I'm going decision plus 165. Highest confidence, of course, down the center with the money line. Those are my most confident picks on the card. Let's jump to the next section. We're going to talk in this next section about my favorite underdogs on this UFC card. Now, I am going to give you my favorite dog, and then we'll talk the other underdog pick. So, Phil Rowe is going to be my favorite underdog this week. I think that he has a really good chance of beating Jake Matthews. I expect Rowe to be pretty precise with his boxing from distance and also his ability to defend Jake Matthews' takedown attempts. If they do tie up as tall as Rowe is, I think he could have advantages inside of the clinch. And when we're talking boxing, Rowe is just better. I'm not a big Jake Matthews believer. I am a Phil Rowe believer. He nearly beat Neil Magny. Granted, it's still a loss, but it was a split decision. Jake Matthews has taken L's to like Matt Semmelsberger not long ago. I think Phil Rowe can style on him with the boxing. Big reach advantage, good boxing skill set from the outside, strong in the clinch, and not an easy guy to bully on the ground. I think Phil Rowe is going to end up pulling this one out. I think he can win a decision, but I think the money line is your best shot at plus 140. I don't think you need to chase trying to say, oh, I'm going to throw it down. Let me do Philly Fresh. Let me go Rowe. I call him Philly Fresh, but really it's the Fresh Prince. Let me go throw it down by knockout. I mean, maybe you could catch him. It's plus 550 with a big shot, but Matthews is pretty durable. Decision more likely. That's plus 350 for Rowe. But the money line is the A side. So we're going Phil Rowe, money line, my favorite underdog this week. The next one, the next dog is Costa. It's Pallo. Marco Pallo. He's like plus 200 right now. As a pretty good size underdog here, taking on Sean Strickland. I just favor the side of Paulo Costa for the upset possibility. I've had this weird feeling all week, and I understand that Sean Strickland has a real possibility of going out, beating him by decision. Maybe you have a multi-play option. You're going Costa by knockout or Strickland by decision. That's live too. It's plus 200 range for Paulo Costa to win. I think he's going to end up catching Sean Strickland. I've had this weird feeling that body kicks and then looping shots may hurt Strickland and finish him off. Costa's plus 375. It's an against the grain call, and I'm not saying it's my most confident pick. That's why Paulo Costa is not my favorite underdog. I recognize that this is a battle of high-tier middleweights. I just think we have to take into consideration this is active Paulo Costa, who's looked better in recent fights. I mean, from the Rockhold fight to the Whitaker fight, way better. From the Whitaker fight to this fight, I think even better. Active Paulo Costa could be a real problem for all these UFC-ranked middleweights, especially Sean Strickland. So I'm going to go with Paulo Costa to pull it off in the plus 200 range, which is an upset knockout. I think he can hurt Strickland with body kicks. I think he will threaten the spinning kicks, and I think he can catch him with a big punch. And also note Strickland's 2 knockout losses are to Brazilian strikers, Solecki dos Santos, Alex Pereira. I think Paulo Costa blends perfectly into that lineup. So I'm going Costa as an underdog. I think he can win. Now, as far as the next section, I want to talk a little bit about the props that I see with value, the Degen props of the night. Now, they're not super Degen. They're actually more on the teetering confidence side. We have Edwards and Perez, the ladies going after it, over 2.5 at minus 290. This is a beautiful parlay piece, and it's an outcome that I think is extremely likely. Perez, good grinder. Edwards, decent striker, not much finishing power. They seem destined to go the distance here. Now, the next one is Kevin Holland by submission. Kevin Holland was a fairly confident pick, but I will say Oleksiejczuk's boxing is going to be tricky here. I think Holland would have better success trying to use his jiu-jitsu, which I promise you is better than Oleksiejczuk's. And I think a submission could be live at plus 250, especially a club and sub type position. I think Holland could end up locking something up. So Holland plus 250 by submission. Those are my props for the card. Now it's time to jump to the parlay segment. Let's talk about some of these parlays. I got them all written down for you on the screen so you can just see them out the gate. I don't need to be spamming through best fight odds like I used to. I got a classy graphic. So Morono and Hafez, minus 125. I think this is a safe parlay, and I actually really like it. Now, a riskier one would be Phil Rowe with Hafez, but it brings you to the plus 200 territory at plus 205. Underdog Rowe, confident pick Hafez. Morono, Hafez, Rowe, all together, it is very risky, plus 340, simply because, you know, Rowe's going to have to really style out as a dog. I think that the other two picks blend beautifully, and I think there's a high likelihood. Now, I said, you know what? Let me jump to confidence again. Makhachev, Dawson, and Hafez, minus 120. That seems like a pretty safe play to me. The next one is Makhachev, Dawson, Hafez, and Morono. I have a very good feeling about this. High confidence picks on this card. That is safe. Plus 160. It's lock and 3 of the most confident picks. Then I added again Lima. It's not that Lima's necessarily the least confident of the most confident picks, but he does have the least, high caliber experience in the UFC. I know Hafez only has 1 UFC fight, but it's aged beautifully, taking on Jack Della, who's ranked now. Those all together, plus 1, what do we got? Plus 260? Plus 260 seems pretty good. Now, the next one is, I'd say, kind of safe. It's the same as what's above it, but adding in the Perez over 2.5 with Perez and Edwards. I really like this one at plus 385, even though I said kind of safe. I think there's a high likelihood of success. The next one, Makhachev, Dawson, Hafez, Morono, Lima, the Perez over 2.5, and Phil Rowe as a dog. That brings you to the plus 1,040 territory, which, honestly, seems pretty nice for, the plus 1,000 range. Now, I do have an alternate parlay. It's going to be Perez over 2.5 and André Lima at minus 110. That's like something to counteract. If you just had Morono Hafez, maybe you got another one here, Perez over and the Lima fight. Now, the bottom one, pretty safe as well. Morono Hafez, Lima, and the Perez over 2.5 is plus 250. And then to close it out, we had Morono, Hafez, Lima, Perez over 2.5, Rowe, plus 725 for that riskier lineup. You know, when you throw the dog in, it's riskier. I'm not throwing Costa in as a dog. I didn't do that. I'm not throwing him on the damn lineups. I think he would be more of a money line play as opposed to trying to attack, some underdog savagery in the parlays with Costa. I like Rowe better. That's why he's my favorite dog. Next is the Degen Parlays. For this card, the Degen Parlays are not as juicy as they were for the last card, but I still got some degeneracy. Makhachev inside distance, Morono, Hafez, Perez by decision, and Lima. Altogether, you got plus 610. Now, if you have that same one, but you add in the underdog side of Philly Fresh, Phil Rowe, plus 1575. Now, this is a little bit of an alternate here. We have Makhachev inside the distance, Morono, Hafez, Perez decision, Lima, and Grant Dawson, plus 769. And if you brought that one down, copy and pasted it, added Phil Rowe to it, you got plus 1950. Now, I didn't go as menacing as maybe I could have, but it's because I would say this card has a lot of chalky spots. And it's unfortunate that we have all these chalky spots. I wish that it could be all just, beautifully evened out fucking lines. Everything seems very bettable. It's just not the situation that we have. But on the fly, I am going to quickly create a little magic for you guys. You're going to get surprised by it. I'm bringing it up. Hafez, Perez decision, Lima. Okay, these all seem like pretty quality calls. I am going to throw the Holland win by submission one. And this is a live on-air one. I had to do it for you guys. Holland by submission. And then Makhachev inside distance. I'm going to add him into the lineup as well. I'm going to tell you guys the result at it. Hold on. We're bringing it up. Makhachev inside distance. What else do I need to add? Alex Morono down the center. Let's add him in. And Grant Dawson to win. Boom. Let's do it. With Grant Dawson also on the slate. So we don't have it written out, but I do have it not far from you, man. I got it hidden, though. But I'll tell you the number, okay? Bassil Hafez, Perez to win a decision, André Lima, Kevin Holland by sub, Islam Makhachev, Alex Morono, and Grant Dawson, plus 3,374. And if you added in the side of Phil Rowe to it, now you have plus 8,063. So there you guys go. That's a little savagery to finish it out on air live. I got to bring some on air live parlays sometimes. And there it is. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of This Week's Best MMA Bets. I hope you're liking the new graphic and style, too. Let me know in the comments what you thought of all the picks and confident calls on the card. Let me know some of your favorite bets on it. I want to hear what the people are thinking. I appreciate you all for tuning in. If you got nothing to say, but you enjoy, W in the comments to boost the algorithm for your boy. Smash the likes on the way out. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. I got daily content. You don't want to miss it. Turn the post notifications on, too. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.